Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight the show is devoted to Sid Caesar, who died recently at the age of 91, who will be remembered for inventing the salad. No, seriously, folks. Basically the greatest television comic of all time. For 10 years, starting at the beginning of the 1950s, no one did it better. Ad-libs, sketch comedy, accents, physical comedy. He was basically the funniest man there was. There probably hasn't been anybody as funny as him in the second half of the 20th century, possible exception of Peter Cook, and I think he was more versatile than Peter Cook, and Alfred Hitchcock once called him the funniest man since Chaplin, and I'm not sure Chaplin could have done what he did. He also had great stable of performers, including Howard Morris, Carl Reiner, and Imogene Coca, all of whom were tremendously funny, and the greatest stable of writers in television history. This included Mel Brooks, Mel Tolkin, Larry Gelbart, Woody Allen, Neil Simon, Danny Simon, all of whom have shaped American comedy since World War II. And if you asked every one of them who was the funniest person they ever saw, it was Sid Caesar, and that's something. His show, Your Show of Shows, has been described in the Dick Van Dyke Show, which was the model of it, in Neil Simon's play Laughter on the 23rd Floor, and in the movie My Favorite Year. Sid Caesar was the genius of live television, and I'm going to let him tell his story here.
But then I went into a Broadway show. It's called Make My Manhattan. And I went in there. I was supposed to do 2 numbers. It was a review. And I wound up doing 12 numbers out of the 21 numbers that they had in the show. As soon as we were playing the show, all of a sudden Max came to me and said, "Sid, would you like to do television?" I said, "What's that?" "Television, you know." I said, "No, television only goes from here to New Jersey, and then that's the end of it, you know." No, it goes to Chicago." "Oh, yeah?" "Yeah, it goes by coaxial cable, it goes to Chicago." "Oh, well, that's big. What kind of a show? You want a half-hour show, an hour show?" That's the way it was. This is 1949, or an hour and a half. So I looked at Max. Max looked at me, and I said, "Let's go for the hour and a half." Little did I understand anything about television. Who was going to write it for an hour and a half? It was Mel Tolkin and Lucille Kallen, and then we got in Mel Brooks. That was the very beginning. And we started to do the show. It was called the Admiral Broadway Review. After 19 shows, they canceled. So they canceled out, and I said, and NBC said, "Don't worry, you'll be on again the beginning of next season. We're taking over. They're going to do the show. They're going to present shows." And I got people like Imogene to work with. It was like a glove, because she knew what I was going to do. She anticipated me, and she knew if I found something in the performance, she would let me ride with it. And Carl was a wonderful, foil for me, and he was a great comedian himself. To be a straight man, you got to be a very good comedian. I would let Carl get a laugh, or let Howie get a laugh, or let Imogene get the laugh, because it doesn't make any difference who gets the laugh. Is the show funny? When the show's funny, what's the difference?
Max was Max Liebman, who produced the show, the genius who revolutionized live television. And here's a skit with Imogene Coca and Carl Reiner in a health food restaurant.
And you can eat at the botanical garden somewhere.
Cultivated taste for these things, darling. Wait till you taste the other dishes. You'll
You want a menu? Did you enjoy your palapucker?
Oh, delicious.
The power buckets, yeah.
Vegetable protein derivatives. Yeast extract, low sodium manganese salad. I can't make up my mind. Everything sounds so yummy.
Yeah.
What are you going to have, Charles?
I don't know. What would you suggest, Doctor?
Well, how about a nice vitamin B1, B2, B3, C, D, and H dinner for 2? It's very nice.
Oh, that sounds like too much for me.
Yeah.
I'll just have the homogenized bone meal, wheat germ, and a side order of glucose.
I'm sorry, madam, but glucose doesn't come with the wheat germ. I could let you have Crotos.
Oh, I don't like fructose. Have you any Flurtos?
Not on Fridays. No Floritos on Fridays. How about a nice dish of Ceratos?
All right, I'll have Ceratos with the birch bark dressing.
Certainly.
Birch bark.
1 Ceratos with birch bark dressing, and you, sir?
I'll have an elm tree on rye.
Howie was a wonderful sight comedian. He was wonderful, and he could climb all over me.
Howard Morris, another comedy genius who went on to direct and also played Ernest T. Bass on the Andy Griffith Show. And here they do one of their classical fake German accent skits.
Ja, mein Herr.
Was kan uitkleinen, wat er ausjes krijgen, we uitkleinen, wat er ausjes splendere Augen.
Ja, mein General, ja, ja.
Das gefilter Rauch ist hier, was heißt, was dann Schwester Splendor hier?
Ja.
Das macht lieber tun, als ihr, das Mannegel ist geschmutzig. Geschmutzig!
Das Manneken ist geschmutzig.
Das Mannegel ist geschmutzig, und was die auszukleinen, du bühnest da, das Trainer. Das Craziness verschmutzigt ist.
Ja, ich hat geweitet.
Ja?
Ja.
Jetzt gefällt es dir, mach dir immer, mach Mannegel Spick und Spähen.
Ja.
Das ganz gut machen, ein bisschen rein, bei fast Ulf in der Einzelheit und Kopf machen.
Kopf machen, Kopf machen, Kopf machen, Kopf gemacht.
Du was hier machen, das Fool?
Das
Fool from here, was machen the front, from the back, and the back, and the front, was machen, jetzt noch schwer und kommen und gehen hier, was kann? Cut gemacht. Gut, die kleine Walzviecher, alte kleine Arm, ja, wir kriegen die auszuwenden. Ja, gut. Mir, Afghan Wall, du bist der schlickest meiner Wall.
Du bist der schlickest Herr, General.
You bet your sweet life, yeah.
I urge you to check out the German General sketch on YouTube. It's even funnier to watch.
Live on television is a different animal altogether than doing it today. I mean, on tape, that's like relaxing. That's like going on vacation. One of the sketches was where I did a strong arm act with Imogene, with a leotard and the wrist bracelets and big and long hair, and gold lame boots, going out. And I go into to the wings, and I look out, and it's a bus sketch. Well, it's the worst nightmare any actor could have. I got this gold lame boots, pants, shirt, coat. Come on. And I walked out, and I sat down on the bench. How are you? Good morning, yeah. And I crossed my legs. It was a lovely morning, yeah. And you see the gold lame boots. And Carl looked and he said, gee, those are great boots. They're beautiful. How much are they? No, you don't want them. I had to talk. You don't want them because you got to shave them every morning. You got to feed them at night. It's too much trouble. So by doing that, they thought it was in the sketch. They thought it was all going. We did a satire of High Noon. And in High Noon, they deputizes the three guys, But these three guys now deputized. They come back. The gang is coming into town. And they walk up. And now what happened was they're supposed to take these badges and take them off and pin them on me. Pin about this long and pin it right on me. When I did my change, you only had 1 minute and 10 seconds to change. I had to put on boots with a gun belt, with a this, with that, with a glove, with a vest. And I had a rubber sponge to take the pins. And as I'm walking out of they're playing the introduction to the sketch, and I look at the side, and there's the sponge. It's laying on the side. So I have nothing here. And when it comes to time to play the sketch, it's live. So I'm saying, yeah, well, Deputy, no, Sheriff, my wife, she's feeling kind of low, and I don't want to leave her alone. And here's your badge, and I take the and he pinned it right back. I went, no, vroom. And it was right there. And we went in. And the next guy goes, well, Sheriff, I'm sorry. See, my wife wants to go to a dance tonight. And I go, no, I got to tell you that back. Boom, again. And the third guy came in, the same thing. Whoa, that 3 pins in me. I mean, this long. And after the show, the guys came back, all the writers came back. Gee, Sid, we know you did great pain takes. But boy, these were sensational. I said, yeah, because they were real. And I went and got a tetanus shot. Monday, we'd come in around 9:30, 10 o'clock. And we'd talk a little bit. Did you see this show? You saw that? Oh, you saw the Sunday night show. You saw this, you saw that. And then we get down. And we said, did anybody go anywhere? Because that's how we got our material. What happened to you? What happened? Anything happened to you? We did things that happened to everyday people. I remember one time, the expert, he was a professor and expert on love. You believe in love at first sight. You see somebody fall in love. Oh, yes. I had the experience myself. I remember I was on a train, and I looked out, and another train passed us. And I saw a woman in the dining car. She was going like this, and she looked out, and I fell in love with her. So what I did, I got in Chicago. I got on the train. I went back to New York so I could see her. She'd come to me. So I went back, and I looked at her, and there she was. And at that second, I knew she wasn't for me. We had 1 day rehearsal. And the day we rehearsed it, that's the day we shot it. They would block all the production numbers, get them all blocked up, and learn how to shoot those. Then I would come in with the sketches, and we'd do a loose blocking. Then we'd do a tighter blocking. And after the dress rehearsal, then it was performance. So you worked about 18 hours that day. Learn the script. And if something happened, then you could ad-lib and fill in or do whatever you want. It was all to fill in and make the show, so it wouldn't stop. We did a takeoff of, we call it Gelbart. And we did the arias. I'm at the makeup table, I got the pencil, and I'm going to draw a tear. And the pencil breaks, but I made a line. So I took the brush, the makeup brush, put some black, and I continued the line, then I drew another line while I'm singing. Then I put another line across here, another line across here, and I started to play tic-tac-toe on my face, from nowhere. And you didn't have to wait for a critic to tell you it was good or bad, because when you walked off the stage, you knew right there. Wasn't too hot, it was all right, but you graded yourself by the audience.
With the pressures of live television eventually got to Sid Caesar, it was a meat grinder, and NBC foolishly broke up their team.
While I was driving there, when I was being driven there, when I was going in, I was always thinking about it. Well, we got this show, now what are we going to do next week? How are we going to do next week, And we didn't have time to work on next week because we were all so busy fixing this week. We only had 3 days to write it. Wednesday, the show was written. Thursday, we put the show up on its feet for the first time and ran it through. And a lot of times when you're from the page to the stage, it doesn't work. I got into the habit of drinking, and that was a very big dependent on me. And it also started to tell. And I started to take sleeping pills with the booze because they said, let's cut down on the whiskey if you can give him some pills, the sleeping pills. And I tried the sleeping pills. It was great, I went to sleep. But after a while, it didn't work. So I used to take the pills with the booze. And that worked. And that's very dangerous. NBC said, Sid, I tell you what, we're going to break this show up. I said, why? Because what they had Max Liebman, who was a great producer. They had Imogene Coca, who was a big star now. They had me. I said, it's got a winning combination. What are you breaking things up? What for? 4 years, that's it? That's the way they thought. We got 3 shows. I said, what are you talking about? You break this up? Hey, that's enough. The ratings are not that great anymore. And it was a great rating. We were still in the top 10, and they took it off. I took the writers with me. Mel Brooks went with Imogene. Unfortunately, she only lasted half a season. And I went on to do Caesar's Hour for 3 more seasons. It was the end of live television. 1957 was over. And it didn't matter what you were doing. If it wasn't on tape, because on tape, they found they could control it. And when you put it on tape, you lose the spontaneity. And that was the end of it, That was the end of the era. You learn nothing from success. You learn how to be obnoxious, you learn how to be arrogant, you learn how to be boop, but you learn nothing. Failure, then you say, whoops, wait a minute. What did I do wrong? What happened here? And you learn what not to do again. I always pushed, and that pushed them, especially in a certain time frame, you got to get it all in. It was a love-terror arrangement. There's a lot of terror and a lot of love.
Well, the pressures and the change from live television cost Sid Caesar the bulk of his career, but he recovered from his alcoholism, and he left a wonderful legacy. Let's hear him talk about that incomparable stable of writers.
Everybody had their own specialty. When you wanted a wild line, something off the wall, Mel Brooks. You wanted very fancy dialogue and really sharp dialogue. Men like Larry Gelbart. Oh, Larry Gelbart was a marvelous writer. Absolutely. They all had their own fields. And Larry was a very hip writer. He used to write he wrote a thing for me called, with all of us, but he was his idea, Progress Hornsby, the hip musician. The hip musician was way out. I had my hair combed down here. Good evening, Progress Hornsby. Progress? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, Progress. How many men in your band? Well, let's see, we have 15 men on a gorilla. Well, why do you need the gorilla? Well, you see, he's the only one who can drive the band bus. On Radar, we had Nicto Barada. You had Radar? Très nécessaire. You see, he's the one who warns us in case we approach the melody. So we had, lines like that. And then there was Neil Simon. And Neil could write wonderful situations and tremendous, wonderful dialogue. And it was such a, you had a plethora of genius. Woody Allen, these are all genius. And we had a guy called Mel Stewart, who just was on the typewriter. He did Bye Bye Birdie, he did 42nd Street, he did quite a few shows. And he was just on the typewriter. Great performers, and we were all great writers. And we put it all together, and it was like a jam session.
Let's hear 2 comic geniuses talk about Sid Caesar. Here's Carl Reiner.
I think Sid was most comfortable in character. He could become Cary Grant if you wanted. If you said you're now doing a Cary Grant movie or you're doing Marlon Brando, give him a character. It's like the clown who can't be funny unless he puts a clown face on. But he was more than just a clown. He was a great acting comedian.
Here's Mel Brooks with Conan O'Brien, and a lot of what Mel Brooks did in the future was the result of his work with Sid Caesar.
You worked for Sid Caesar on a great show, your show of shows.
Very talented. Most comics you wrote for, I wrote for. You prayed that they met your material, that they just did it.
Yeah.
Sid always raised it. Sid always made it funny.
Everyone said he was the best instrument to hear your music through.
He was the best.
Well, when Mel Brooks says you're the best, you can't do much better than that. I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer, Sid Tepps. As a young boy, Sid Caesar learned another talent, playing a musical instrument, the saxophone. He tells the story here. And once, when he was a big star, he sat in with Benny Goodman and his band for an interlude on Sing, 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 and he did quite well. And that's what we'll close with.
My father said, you like saxophone? I said, yeah. Okay, you're going to study it. I said, why? Somebody left one here. And from there, I took lessons. I went down to New York, and I played with bands. And by that, I got into show business because I started to see shows. I started to play for shows.